Every CDL holder has a record in the FMCSA Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. That file exists whether or not you have a violation history, and regardless of whether you have ever logged into the system yourself. It perpetually tracks your current standing, prohibited or not prohibited. It maintains the full history of any drug or alcohol program violations, every entry from a substance abuse professional, and a complete log of every employer who has ever requested your data. These entries are retained for 5 years from the date of a violation, or until you complete the entire return to duty process, whichever timeline is longer. A resolved violation does not immediately disappear. It remains as a historical entry visible to any employer conducting a full check. Because this information dictates your professional eligibility, you have unrestricted free access to view it. You can review your entire file at any time without needing authorization or a specific request from an employer. This federal database functions as a digital shadow throughout your commercial driving career. It serves as the definitive reference point that determines your eligibility to operate a commercial vehicle. Accessing that record requires a secure login.gov account, which must be linked directly to your clearinghouse registration. Failing to register creates an immediate barrier to employment. If an employer tries to run a required pre-employment query on an unregistered driver, the system cannot complete the check, meaning that driver cannot be placed in any safety-sensitive role. Security protocols within the system are becoming more rigorous. Certain roles, including substance abuse professionals and medical review officers, now require biometric identity verification through IDEMIA before their registration is finalized. CDL holders currently register by verifying their license information within the system, but the security landscape changes frequently. Reviewing the official registration guidance at clearinghouse.fmcsa.dot.gov ensures you are following the most current procedures. Registration is a mandatory requirement for maintaining your status in the commercial workforce. It is not an optional task that can be deferred until a job offer is on the table. When a prospective employer requests a full pre-employment query, you receive a notification through your account. From that moment, you have 24 hours to respond to the request for access. Granting consent allows that specific employer to see your full history. This authorization is transaction-specific. Approving one request does not grant access to any other employer or future query. You can choose to decline the request. While an employer cannot compel you to provide access, declining means they cannot complete the legally required background check, which effectively ends the hiring process. There is no alternative mechanism for an employer to bypass this. A full query requires your explicit authorization. If you have not been notified and have not provided consent, a full check has not been legitimately performed. The consent process acts as a controlled gateway. Since employers cannot access the data without your permission, you maintain the final decision over when and where your history is disclosed. Once you grant consent, the system is fully transparent. The employer sees the complete administrative history, including resolved violations that still fall within the 5-year retention period. The record documents the administrative steps of your history, the date, violation type, and return to duty timeline. However, the clearinghouse never reveals clinical records. Employers can see a treatment plan was completed, but cannot see your diagnosis, clinical findings, or specific medical evaluations. This transparency allows you to have an informed conversation with a prospective employer. You know exactly what procedural information they can see, allowing you to discuss your history based on the same facts the system provides. If you identify a factual error in your record, such as a status that doesn't match your current situation or a missing entry, you can petition for a correction through the federal Data Queues system. Data Queues is designed to resolve data accuracy issues, not to contest the results of a valid clinical test. If a positive result was correctly reported and reviewed, it cannot be removed through this administrative dispute process. In cases of suspected fraud, such as entries generated by uncredentialed operators or fake evaluations, the process changes. These issues must be reported directly to the FMCSA clearinghouse team, rather than through a standard Data Queues petition. Leaving an error in your record affects your employment eligibility and the standing of your CDL. Identifying and disputing inaccuracies early prevents them from interfering with a future job change or license renewal. Your clearinghouse file is separate from the testing records held by your individual employers. You have the right to request copies of both the federal database records and the specific collection and chain of custody forms held in your employer's files. Protecting your livelihood requires active monitoring. You should log in periodically to review your current status and the query log, confirming that every entity that has accessed your file was authorized to do so. An unauthorized query is a violation of federal regulations by the entity that performed it. If you see a name you do not recognize on your query log, document the details and report it to the FMCSA clearinghouse team. Your CDL number and date of birth provide direct access to your professional history. In the wrong hands, this information allows unauthorized access to your file and the potential to manipulate your standing. Guard these credentials as strictly as your banking information. Verify the web address every time you log in. Official government sites end strictly in .gov. Fraudulent websites often mimic the official layout, using .com or .net extensions to capture your personal information and credentials. Routine data monitoring and strict credential security are necessary defenses for maintaining a commercial driving career in a digital environment. Discovering a prohibited status or an unresolved violation during a pre-employment check is a situation that rarely ends well for the driver. It puts you in a reactive position at the exact moment you need to be in control. Checking your own record takes only a few minutes and provides the exact history an employer will see. This allows you to manage your career with full awareness of your standing in the federal system. Accessing this information is a basic professional right. It ensures you manage your career based on facts rather than responding to a crisis after the damage is done.